Hello, everyone. I am here with Magdalena Wszelaki, who is one of my dearest friends. I've known her for several years in the health space, and it's great to have you here, Magdalena.
Thank you. It's always too good to see you and hang out with you, even if it's a virtual setup here.
I know. Versus when you were last visiting me here, and I was able to take you to the rodeo, and we had so much fun. I introduced you to my rodeo life, the horse trailer,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
want to
It's always
welcome
so good
everyone
to
on.
yeah.
I want to
Go.
welcome everyone on, and you guys can ask questions. I am getting a little background echo. Do you guys hear that in the feed? I keep hearing my voice back to me. Not sure what's going on here. Let me just check the audio real quick. Let's see.
Is this better now?
Let's see. Does that make any difference? Can anyone hear any echoes? You guys hear me good? I don't hear the echo now, so that's good.
Okay. I did
Okay.
turn it on, so.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And those are good air tubes. I see your headset is air tubes, so it has less EMF to your head. That's brilliant. Very good. Well, today we're going to be talking about something that's so important to every woman, and that is breast health. We're going to talk about fibrocystic breast health. And first, Magdalena, I would love for you to share your story and a little bit about your background and what got you so interested and passionate about this field of health.
So, as you know, I dedicated my life to helping women balance hormones naturally. Definitely, breast health falls under the category. A lot of times we don't realize that breast health can be due to hormonal changes. I've struggled with Hashimoto's disease, like diagnosed in 2008, and then had a whole series of different hormonal imbalances as far as I remember. And so it was a pivotal moment in my life, like realizing that there's actually a lot of things I can do to change my hormones. I will admit that breast health was not one of those things. I remember finding my first breast lump, like probably when I was 27, 28. And I still remember we were driving in a car with my dad's boyfriend, and I was just like holding my hands like that. And I suddenly found the lump, and it was only on one breast. And Dr. Google wasn't really the default search at that
Mm-hmm.
point. And so we were just more of talking to friends about it. Everybody's telling you that if it's a one lump, it's bad news, because it's my chances of breast cancer. And so with that came, I'll still remember the emotional roller coaster that put me on, because the minute you find a lump right on your breast, it's like the whole thing. First of all, you go, oh, why is this happening, right? So like this whole confusion, and then you go and do your research, and then you're convinced that it could be breast cancer, right? So there's this horrendous fear around it, and then you have to figure out, I think with that, for me, it was just like a lot of emotional stuff of going, oh, is it because I smoked too much and I drank too much in college, right? Or is it that there's just so many good things happening? I got an imposter syndrome, like a lot of women probably. And so I go, maybe it's all these amazing things are happening in my life. And it's like a life's punishment, for not, for just like too many things, like things are happening. Like something has to smack me, right? And bring me to reality. And then when you find that lump, then diagnostics become an issue, right? Like, how do you get it diagnosed? Do I get a mammogram? Do I do a thermogram? Do I do an ultrasound? What is going to be the most accurate one? And so I will never forget that emotional roller coaster that finding a lump has put me on. And so when I started doing this work, I wish I could say the breast health was the first one. It wasn't. It was actually my skin issues, having adult acne is what has caused me to actually look into nutrition and using food as medicine. So it was a lot more, I would say, uh, it was a lot more of a vanity decision, right, to look into nutrition because I had cystic acne. But as I was then as I embarked on an anti-inflammatory diet, an elimination diet, figured out what are the foods that were causing a lot of inflammation. In my case, it was gluten, dairy, eggs, and cut those
The
out.
common
Then
ones, right? They're so
very common,
common.
very common. That's when I realized, like, hey, my period's actually better. And not only did my zits completely disappear, my cystic acne, adult cystic acne, but my periods got better. And then, the breast lumps went away as well. And so a lot of things just started improving pretty quickly. So today, as I enter this world of supplementation and herbalism, and I am a certified nutritionist and herbalist, then it's just, this became really my mission of, like, I don't want women to go through, excuse me, what I had to go through these 20 years ago. When I give them tools and options, of what we can do in order to help ourselves. And there's so many things we can do regarding, and our breasts are actually really telling us that something is off, right? And there's just so much that we can do to help ourselves and change that.
And I think that's such an important statement, because our breasts, I learned this not from med school or residency, but from traveling and listening to indigenous healers around the world. Our breasts hold the energy of relationships. So there's something to that. When there's something going on with our breast, whether it's a cyst or lump, and there are many breast conditions, I listed some of them here: breast pain, mastitis, lumps, swelling, nipple discharge, skin changes, inflammatory breast cancer and different breast cancers, breast cyst, fibrocystic breast, and breast asymmetry are some of the most common. There are so many other things, but these are some areas. And certainly as a gynecologist in practice, part of our exam is to examine the breast, feel for temperature changes, feel for lumps, feel under the axilla. And then as I learned, as I, really started to understand functional medicine and really work to decrease inflammation, balance hormones, and address the adrenals, like, the breast improved as well, right? The breast responded too. The biggest one is also targeting those relationships, those relationship energies, and the energy of relationship and love and connection, or disconnect, or whatever it may be, betrayal, etc. Like, what energy are we holding anywhere in our body? So I want you to share. You've created a presentation for us today. So if you're listening to this, I'd love you to come over to our YouTube channel at The Girlfriend Doctor, and you'll be able to watch this video, and Magdalena will be sharing her slides. So I'm excited for you to go ahead and teach, and share about this, and share about, you're going to have to reshare
No,
your
it's
slides.
It's me. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, it's back on.
There we go. And we're going to talk about, first of all, you also created a product, and we're going to share this with you. It's called Happy Sisters. And so you refer to the breast as your sisters. And where did you come up with that? That's fun.
I actually had a friend who had breast cancer, and instead of hating it, and she kind of embraced it. And so she said, whatever happens, you're not going to take my sister away. And so I still remember that this is like 15 years ago. And so, she kind of framed it like this: these were my sisters, they were my best friends. And you're not going to take that away from me. Let's, I'm just going to let you part nicely and leave my sisters alone. So she always used to refer to that. And that's when the name came from.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's good, and that's a real positive way of looking at it. So,
Yeah.
and you drew some caricatures here of different breasts, and, different looks, different sizes, different shapes, surgical removal. I think that's really awesome too. I think it's like the work that I love with the vulva, and why I love the plant, the orchid, is that like every orchid flower, I mean, it really is anatomically analogous to the vulva, so you've got labia minora, labia majora, the little clitoral bulb, and all of these things on the orchid as well. Very similar.
Yeah.
And so, but each one is different and unique, and each one is beautiful. So thinking about this with our breast as well, different sizes, different shapes, different looks, and beautiful. So I'd love for you to share this journey. And then the reason too, I mean, the herbals that you created to help with, combine to help with breast issues.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. And the way I've created the presentation is to really empower our listeners of what are some of the herbs that you can do to help yourself. So really what I want to talk about today is, so what are some of the basic causes of inflammation in your breast, so like causing fibrocystic breast and benign lump growth, 3 topical herbs and oils that you can incorporate tomorrow to help yourself. If you guys like, I can do a demo on the lymphatic breast massage, do a demonstration. Then we can talk about the 5 different herbs that can relieve pain, and then talking about a couple of 3 different compounds to support breast health. So let's dive in. It's just one slide that really talks about the causes. So just so that you know, hormonal obviously changes is a huge thing, and something called estrogen dominance is a leading reason for changes in the breast when it comes to developing fibrocystic breast, whether it's cyclical or non-cyclical, but also insulin resistance. Insulin resistance, just because insulin resistance can cause high DHEA and high testosterone levels, and testosterone that gets converted to too much estrogen in the body, and hence it kind of goes back to that estrogen dominance. So that could be one reason. The second is inflammation. So generally when there's a lot of your diet is not the best, you kind of know. I think a lot of women intuitively know they could do better with their diet. Highly inflammatory diet, you're eating a lot of inflammatory foods, and a lot of sugar, alcohol, coffee, stress, prescription drugs, and lack of sleep can all contribute. So let me give you an example. For instance,
Wait, that's all just today for me. Okay.
Really?
Okay, no alcohol.
So, whenever, for context, like if, for instance, when I take care of myself pretty well, and there's occasionally I travel and I take some liberties. And so, for instance, if I go to Italy or Portugal or Spain and my diet changes, it might be a lot more gluten that creeps into my diet, which in the US, I never touch it. There's definitely more alcohol, there's more coffee because there's, friends, and there's more potting and late nights and stuff like that. I tend to develop fibrocystic breast pretty quickly. And so we're going to talk about a little bit about a COMT gene and some of the herbs that can really help with that. But if you're somebody told you that you're a slow estrogen metabolizer, you tend to have, by looking at symptoms, you have experienced things like PMS, and you've always had difficult periods and heavy periods or irregular periods. This is some of the things that kind of tell you you have a history of fibroids, infertility or miscarriages. This is some of the simple symptoms that it could be due to estrogen dominance, and inflammation can play a big role here. So, and then the third one is lymphatic stagnation. So lack of touch of the breast, movement, and unfortunately wearing a lot of wired breasts, especially when you have larger breasts, it does cause some blockage on the lymphatic system, and the breasts are highly lymphocytes. So that's something that we need to remember, and the massage that I'm going to show is going to address that. So I want to show you 3 topical herbs and oils that can relieve pain and swelling and benign lumps pretty quickly. And so, Dr. Anna mentioned Happy Sisters, and I'll show you the link where you can consider looking into the product, but I just don't want you to feel like, you can't help yourself in any other way. So the first one, and some of you here who are, maybe you're from the South and you garden, and you might have seen this weedy plant before, and that's called poke. So Pocus, this is like when it's already in fruit. It's a beautiful plant, it's got beautiful big leaves. And so the medicinal value of it comes from the root itself. And taking the poke root and infusing into an oil can relieve painful breast pretty quickly. Phytolacca americana is the name of the root of the plant. It's a Native American herb, and the real power of it is it's a very strong lymphatic mover for clearing lumps, swellings, and tissue and congestion. It's been used as a standard topical treatment for painful swollen breasts, as well as by traditional midwives. And so that's, it's interesting plant, because if you go to PubMed, there is not much research that has been done on it, but at the same time, we want to honor the traditions of midwives and Western and herbalists who've been using this for centuries. Poke root has got a big affinity basically for women's reproductive organs. So breast is one, has been traditionally used for mastalgia, for mastitis, But also, for those of you who are struggling with a lot of PMS and a lot of uterine pain, if you can find a poke root infused oil and just put it on your uterus, it has an incredible efficacy for that as well. So it contains complex array of constituents that promotes a very healthy inflammatory response. So, so where do you get this? So just to make this super practical, there is not many commercial products that are using this. I mean, one thing you could do is find a local herbal store that potentially infuses poke root into an oil. The most potent poke root is when it's collected in fall and then infused into an oil. Another herb, and you might have seen this herb many times before, every one of you has walked by it many times, not paying any attention to it. It's very weedy. It grows on the side of the roads, and you don't find it even in meadows as such. You find it more of sides of roads. And that's St. John's wort. And so it's an incredible plant. Some of you may know St. John's wort as the antidepressant, and that's when it's taken internally and has got a lot of contraindications of don't use it with SSRIs and a lot of other prescription medications. However, when you apply it topically, it does not have any contraindications. So promotes healthy inflammatory responses. And one of the things that you can think about, why is it called a antidepressant? And now we know is that it does have an incredible anti-inflammatory effect on the brain itself. But with a lot of different herbs, the anti-inflammatory response does not have to just be applicable to one organ. It can also be applied to many other ones. And what we have found through research is that St. John's wort has got a special affinity for breast tissue. It's got a beautiful warming, soothing effect and a very attractive aroma. In fact, when you infuse St. John's wort, the fresh flowers, the yellow flowers that go in, the oil then becomes very rich and red. Is pretty spectacular in color that it becomes. Topical application helps to relieve premenstrual breast discomfort, but it also can be applied again on the uterus to relieve PMS pain. Topical bypasses, like I said, potential herb and drug interactions.
So you mean to apply it to the lower abdomen, or apply it to the vulvar area versus?
No, not vulva. You apply it to the uterus. So if you have PMS, for example, you can apply it to the uterus. If you have,
do you mean just abdominally, like on the lower abdomen?
Yeah.
You can't get to the uterus.
Abdominal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So over the skin. So abdomen. Yeah. Lower abdomen. That's what happens when you talk to an OBGYN.
I know you're talking all these things. And I just want to I want to give a quick visual because, just to explain when we're talking about breast and uterus and the different changes, let's go here a second. And so, we're looking at the uterus and the ovaries, right? The uterus and the ovaries, but within the pelvis. So the uterus is sitting above the bladder. I'm going to try to do this backwards. The uterus is sitting above the bladder, and it is usually leans above the bladder, and that's an anteverted uterus versus back against the rectum. And that's a retroverted uterus. So you can see sometimes with people's periods, you have more bladder pain or you have more rectal pain and issues. So that can tell you a little bit about the position. So just above the pubic bone, and you've got all this lymphatic tissue here. So applying the cream topically, taking internal support, but also externally applying topically. That's why it makes a difference. And for some people, it may be where they have lower abdominal pain, and that's where they're putting their heating pad or their warmer, versus back pain. And that, again, could sometimes indicate the position of the uterus too. So,
yeah.
Very cool.
Super.
And I didn't realize St. John's wort because I've only known it for its antidepressant and mood elevating properties. I didn't realize that it was really good for menstrual cramp and fibrocystic breast and
yeah. And, one of the things that we did was when we were working on a formula, we took every one of these ingredients for the topical separately and applied it just to see what kind of results it had. And everybody had, and we also worked with a formulator who had 2 weeks out of the month had incredibly engorged breasts. So she was the perfect candidate to work on this formula because it became very personal for her. She couldn't even put on a bra. during this time because it would be so incredibly painful for her. So we were testing every one of these herbs, first starting off with pokeroot that I talked about, then St. John's wort, and then we come to the third oil, and every one of them has incredible efficacy. So you can use one or two of them. You can use them in combination. Happy Sisters, the formula has been obviously using all of them in combination for that very reason. In herbalism, we call it 1 + 1 = 5, right?
Mm-hmm,
so
mm-hmm.
sometimes herbs support each other and they work synergistically. But if for whatever reason, say if you're overseas or you would rather try one thing at a time, you can still do that and get results. So the third oil I want to talk about is borage seed cold pressed, featuring GLA. GLA stands for gamma linolenic acid, reduces swelling and tenderness. So many of you here, this is an oil that comes from borage seed. It's particularly rich in GLA. Many of you might have heard of evening primrose oil.
Mm-hmm.
And so like even most traditionally trained OBGYNs will tell you, oh, if you got PMS, take evening primrose oil, right? And the reason why I say borage seed oil is because through research, we have found that borage seed oil actually contains 3.2 times more gamma linolenic acid, which is just a truly anti-inflammatory compound in it, as compared to evening primrose oil. So this is a reason why. But you can also use evening primrose oil. And I'll tell you in a second
black
how to use
currant.
this.
Oh,
Blackcurrant as well, correct.
Blackcurrant oil, yeah.
Seed as well. Mm-hmm. Supports healthy inflammatory responses, can be used internally as well as topically, reduces a lot of local tenderness and swelling. So depending on the person, when we worked on this with a group of 6 women, we were testing the different oils. Most people felt like the borage seed oil gave them the biggest reduction in swelling pretty quickly within 20 minutes. Like there was like this, as your breast was saying, oh, thank goodness, it's like finally, right? So the one thing you can do is if you have GLA at home in whatever form, you can just literally take the soft gel, puncture it with a knife or scissors, get the oil, squeeze the oil out and apply it to your breast. It's really as simple and practical as that. And if you take it internally, and I'm going to talk about that as well, it produces, again, the 1 + 1 = 5 kind of a result. So apply it topically and internally, you get amazing result. It's very quick and really super fast to absorb. So it's not unlike castor oil, it's not going to sit on your boobs for a really long time and you go like, oh, that's really tacky. What do I do with this? So if you like to consider, this is the Happy Sisters cream. This is what it looks like. It's got this beautiful light pinkish color, and which is all natural. We don't use any. I mean, if you guys don't know me, we never make any supplements or products that contain any phthalates, any BPAs, petroleum, mineral oils, nothing like that. So it's a really super nice and clean product. And if you want to check it out, go to dranna.com/Happy Sisters. So you can take a look at, there's a couple of other ingredients that we haven't. Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to just mention, because I've known Magdalena for a long time and she continues to study and educate, plus her, eating for hormone balance, or cookbook for hormone balance that she created, and then her book on estrogen dominance. Everything is done with so much care and just deep research and explanation. Like I think of the diagrams that you put in and the plans that you put in place. And I've known you through your herbalism degree. So I was like, okay, let me see what you're coming up with. But number one, I can trust it. That's the biggest thing. And I think like my level of standard, I have a high level of standard for my products. I have a high level standard for what I bring into the lives of my family and what I recommend to every one of my listeners. And I think that's key. But I also know, because I've created products and skincare, that some of the ingredients that we like with herbs don't smell good and they don't feel good to use. And you've got to make them smell good. And you did a good job with that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So there is a bit of a scent to it. It's not strong, but it's there. So just FYI. And we're using things like essential oils, rose geranium, ylang ylang, and I think bergamot are the essential oils. So the cream also contains castor oil. Castor oil is going to help to bring the oils deeper into the tissue. We also put in Nigella sativa, which is black cumin oil in it. I know, Dr. Anna, you have Middle Eastern roots, and so as they say in the Arab world, Nigella sativa or black cumin oil will cure everything but death. And so, including there's research that shows affinity of Nigella sativa towards lowering inflammation in the breast, and we also use ginger essential oil to warm up the breast, so that whenever you warm a tissue, that's when you get deeper penetration. So as a result of that, the cream absorbs really quickly. One of the goals of formulating it was to for women to put it on and literally put it on first thing in the morning, whether you massage your breast or not, it doesn't really matter. Put on the cream, and then within the next less than 5 minutes, you can put on your bra, and it's never gonna stain your bra in any way or stain your clothing. So and it does deliver. It does absorb really quickly.
And I would say when you talk about warming, what that means is you're bringing blood flow. You're stimulating blood flow, which then increases the absorption of the ingredients.
Exactly. And also when you warm, so when you think about it, when your body is warm, you can stretch more, right? I mean, that's the whole thing about warming up before exercise. And so with a tissue, it's also when we're warming up that way, its absorption is one, but it's also distribution of the cream within the tissue happens a lot easier. So do you guys want to learn how to do the lymphatic breast massage? Shall we do that?
Yeah,
Dr.
we
Anna?
definitely should. We definitely should. I'm talking, but you can hear me. So I disappeared myself. So yeah, definitely, type in the chat, say, yes, I want to learn the lymphatic breast massage. This is really important. I think that in my practice too, first of all, teaching breast exam, and then taught breast dry brushing, which is part of the sequence, the directional approach to doing a lymphatic breast massage. And the reason that we want to understand which directions, because we want to feed the lymph chains, and we want to improve that circulation and that flow, that lymphatic flow, because it's a huge part of detox, decreasing congestion, increasing good blood flow, and then you don't have stagnation and toxicity. So it's really important. Yes, teach away, Magdalena.
Okay, so is my camera on? Can you guys see me? Dr. Anna?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, so what we're gonna do is basically I'm gonna try to avoid all these cables here, but anyway, it's really simple, and you can do this. You can do the massage. We're gonna follow the instructions, and I'll just show you in a second how we're gonna do this. We're gonna follow the instructions that you see in front of you. You can do this in the shower. You can do that with a cream. You can do it if you just bought one oil, or you just puncture the GLA capsule and squeeze the oil out from your evening primrose oil or whatever oil. You can do all of that using this massage. The point is that you don't want to be doing it without any substance, so that, for example, if you're doing it in a shower, use a nice clean soap, liquid soap. And if you're doing that, so you basically don't do it on a dry skin. That's the whole message here. So let's massage our left breast. Lift up your left hand. If you are having problems with your shoulder, then just lift it as far as you can. If it's just up to here, that's perfectly fine too. If you can go all the way, then just put your hand behind your head. And what we're going to be doing is, first, maybe let's just agree that the exit point is like what you see in the diagram is the kind of like the clavicle up here, right? That's what you want to be moving the lymphatic your lymph nodes towards. So the whole lymphatic passages are going to move in that direction. So the whole massage is going to be going from your nipple over to your exit side, right? So we start off with a nipple like 12 o'clock, and then using the top parts of your fingers, and then you're just gently massaging it out. Now, when I say gently, there's always a question of like, how hard do you want me to press, right? And so the answer is like, imagine if you had a little honey tube inside here, and you want to get the honey going and moving. If you press too hard, it's gonna be it's not gonna, it's not gonna be the greatest. So neither is it too light, so the honey is still stuck in there, right? So left over. So that's the kind of pressure you want to apply. We're moving towards the clavicle, and from 12 o'clock you want to move it to 1 o'clock. And again, we are moving that. So you can see I'm moving it towards, at first from my nipple, I'm moving it towards my armpit, and then it's going towards the clavicle, right? And then just leave it out. It will stimulate the lymphatic movement. And then we're moving it again over to 3 o'clock, and then so on and so forth. And so you follow that until when you come down. Let me talk about the down movement. You go down. So when you're down at like 6 o'clock on the nipple, you move down and then over. If you're moving in that direction, then it's just down and over here, again, going towards the exit sign. Okay. So then switch sides, and then you continue doing it on the other hand, on the other breast. It's really as simple as that. It can take a couple of minutes. You can use the Happy Sisters cream for that. We formulated specifically for that. But if you like I said, if you have any other cream, nice and clean, that does not contain any chemicals in it, then you can just use that, or use it in the shower. It should take you probably about a minute or two per breast. So really doing it a couple of times, 2 to 3 times a week. Women who have a lot of stagnation in the breast, have engorgement in the breast, have told us that this has been completely a game changer for this. I learned this technique from a woman who actually does breast lymphatic massage for a living. And Dr. Anna, I actually went to see her in North Carolina, in Charlotte, where she lives, to experience it and to learn it from her. And and I've learned about her from my community, who said there's this amazing woman in North Carolina. She does it, and it's changed women's lives. Like, there are women who walk around with engorged breasts most of their lives, and it doesn't have to be that way. We've had stories from our community saying how within a course of 3 days, a woman can go from cup A to cup C, in 3 days, because of an enlargement on the breast. But with that comes a lot of debilitating stuff, right? Like, oh, I can't do sports. I don't want to be intimate. I can't sleep on my belly.
Right.
I can't put on the
hurts.
bra that I like. It hurts, obviously, right? So doesn't have to be that way. So I hope this was helpful.
Oh my gosh, it's so helpful. That it's really
if you
good
like,
to
we
do that
can-
presentation.
Yeah.
It's really good to do that, and to share, to share more. So
Oh, so let me also just mention that if you guys are getting the kit, right, in the kit, there is also a little standee. So the standee is basically something that you put this together, and you can put this on your on your bathroom counter, and learn how to do this. And the instructions are recapped at the back. I mean, you do this like 3-4 times, and then you're going to toss it hopefully pass it on to someone else, because you're going to learn it. And it's like, I don't need to look at this anymore. But initially it can be a little bit intimidating. So the instructions are all here just to help you through this.
yeah,
So
and I
let me
think
talk about,
that's so powerful, because this is something just you've got to remember to do this. So putting it somewhere you can remember to do it too. It's important. And
Exactly.
you often just feel like you're just doing things blind, and now you know how to do a lymphatic breast massage the right
and
way.
exactly. And one thing I also want to mention about the breast massage is that, it's energetically a different kind of massage versus like doing self-examination. I feel like with self-examination, it's like it's coming from a place of, oh shoot, I hope I don't find something, right? And it is a little where the energy behind what we are hoping to achieve with Happy Sisters and showing you how to do the massage is to really come from a place of love and self and maintenance, and and let me avoid problems. Let me just take care of my sisters now, rather than coming from a place of fear. It's like, oh shoot, let me not find something, right? So
Right.
it brings a very different energy to a table.
Yeah, and it's safe. If you've had a history of breast cancer or ductal carcinoma in situ, you can feel comfortable using this as well.
Oh,
decreasing
totally.
inflammation. And this is one of the things, and I've done a prior girlfriend doctor show on thermography and breast imaging. And so thermography, sometimes you see areas that are hot spots. Like, you don't want to wait for that, but if you do see it, this is something definitely targeted that you can initiate. Now, you also have the oral supplement. So you said 1 + 1 is 5. So taking internal and topical. So using it both dimensions, which of course I like that approach.
Yeah, yeah. So I see the cream as a sort of instant relief. I mean, sometimes we just need, take a Advil, right, just to get over a headache and create a better plan. But in the long term, you kind of want to address the root cause. So the cream is a wonderful tool to really decrease your inflammation pretty quickly. Where I feel like the difference is from a root cause perspective is to address what causes, right? And we talked about what causes fibrocystic breast and benign lumps growth is, we talked about inflammation, estrogen dominance, and lymphatic stagnation. So here is a couple of herbs, 5 herbs I want to show you that address all of those issues. So this beautiful plant here is called Yerba Santa, and it helps to excrete dirty estrogens in the summer. So it's a Native American herb from California. Native American, herb from California. You might have seen this. It's a tiny plant. It's kind of difficult to see it, but it's beautiful. The cool thing about it is that it acts on phase 1 and phase 2 liver enzymes and detoxification. And why this is important is because estrogen gets metabolized in phase 1 liver detoxification and in phase 2, and not just in one or the other. And this is where Yerba Santa is an herb, and I'll show you in a second how that works, why it helps both of the phases. It's a natural cholagogue. What it means is that it encourages the flow of bile to enhance detoxification. A lot of people don't realize that the bile is not only used for helping you digest fats. For those of you who lost your gallbladder, you know that you might not be digesting fat so well anymore, right? And you might be like adding some additional things like biles or salt biles, excuse me, to help your digestion. But if you still have regardless whether you've lost your gallbladder or not, Yerba Santa helps with bile production. And the cool thing is that bile is one of those things that actually binds up estrogens as well, those excess estrogens, or what I call dirty estrogens. And that's really important to understand, because some of you may see this, have experienced this, or had a friend who lost the gallbladder. And without realizing, 6 months to a year later, this woman might be experiencing a lot of estrogen dominant symptoms without making the connection that, wait a second, my doctor never told me that by having my gallbladder removed, which, by the way, a lot of them are completely unnecessary, can be resolved, but it is what it is with allopathic medicine treatments. And they end up having hormonal problems later without making the connection that it was the gallbladder loss. So just bear with me here for a second. It's a bit of a technical term, but I'll explain it. It's an inhibitor of what we call CYP1B. Yerba Santa is, right? And what it means is that it encourages the beneficial protective estrogen metabolite called 2-hydroxyestrone, and it decreases the potentially carcinogenic inflammatory 4-hydroxyestrone metabolites. It's basically, in very simple terms, your estrogen gets metabolized, broken down in the liver to clean estrogens that are protective, that you actually need to function properly as a woman. And then it creates some metabolites that are not so great. For simplicity, I just call them dirty estrogens. And so that's one of the beautiful things that Yerba Santa does, is that it skews the balance towards the scale towards producing more protective estrogens. It contains hesperidin, which is a COMT inducer. So some of you who have done maybe Dutch tests before, you've seen at the bottom of the report that says COMT. If you follow Dr. Ben Lynch, you heard about 30 genes and having a slow COMT. I do definitely have a slow COMT gene. It basically makes you more estrogen dominant, and you just need to work a little bit harder, just the way I have to, in order not to become estrogen dominant so easily. So it's not it's just a matter of supporting your body so that the COMT gene is kicking in and is supported. And so one of the beautiful things that Yerba Santa helps with that, so that your COMT gene, basically, it's what I read here, it upregulates your COMT gene, increasing the clearance of estrogen metabolites. So it's pretty awesome. Another herb that I want to, that we have in our Happy Sisters, and you can also look at them as by the way, if you want to try yerba santa, it's a tincture. It's a good option. Don't do that as a tea because it's pretty awful. Another one, which is an amazing herb, is called endographis. Endographis is also known as the king of bitter. So you certainly do not want to make a endographis tea because you're going to hate this herb forever. But I hope after this short presentation, you love it as much as I do. It's an incredibly versatile herb. It's an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, is an alternative, which means it supports liver detoxification. It's hepatoprotective, which means that if you want to go and have cocktails with your girlfriends, have some endographis before, and you do less damage to your liver. But it's also a hepatorestorative, which means that it helps to restore your liver function. Excuse me, especially after maybe you've been put on some antibiotics or prescription drugs, and you need some liver support. That's a great one. What I didn't mention here, but I'll just say it, is that endographis gained a lot of popularity as an antiviral. As herbalists, we don't like using the term antiviral because it actually doesn't kill the virus. What it does instead is it upregulates your immune system in a way that your own immune system can fight off the virus. Endographis, for that reason, became very, very hot at one point during COVID. And in Thailand is actually used as the official herb for managing symptoms of COVID as well as prevention of COVID. So pretty interesting, versatile herb. In the context of hormones, it's a very active inducer of CYP1A1, which basically means that it converts estrogen into more of the protective to hydroxyestrogen. So remember the previous one, yerba santa, we talked about, it creates more of skews the balance towards we're gonna be helping you convert less to the bad ones, and this one is helps you to convert to more of the good estrogens. It's a relaxant nervine, so which means that it kind of helps your nerves, chill. It activates your parasympathetic nervous system. Dr. Anna loves that because she's always all about get your orgasm and smile a lot and go and give somebody a hug, and so that is one of the beautiful things about endographis. Supports the rest and digest state, improving nutritional uptake and utilization, right? So pretty awesome. If you want to experiment with this herb and do a little bit more research and then bring it into your life, then I suggest that as a tincture. It's not a pleasant one, so just heads up on that. But I think it's something that anyone can get used to tolerating bitters. One other herb I want to share with you is red root. Powerful yet gentle lymphagogue. So we talked about, remember, lymphatic stagnation being one of the reasons why we are having problems with the breast. With a special affinity for the liver, it's a lymphatic for hepatic support and pelvic decongestant. So pretty amazing herb as well. In historic botanical medicine, used for congestive dysmenorrhea, PMS-associated lymphatic stagnation, and a deobstruent for cystic conditions, including fibrocystic breast. We found some amazing research on that. Significant anti-inflammatory activity, a very relaxing nervine, parasympathetic, again, activator, supporting the rest and digest state. It is also a cholagogue. That means that helps you with producing bile, and the bile is going to bind up estrogen. So as you can see, a lot of times we like to compartmentalize an herb and say oh, that's the one thing that it does. The truth of the matter is that herbs can be extremely versatile. As you can see, the red root here, it supports your liver. It helps with bile production, so it binds up your estrogen dominance. It's a decongestant. It supports your lymphatic system, right? So really wonderful herb. One more thing I want to share with you. I'm sure many of you have seen this herb before on your walks. It's another very prolific weed, red clover, right? So traditionally used as a very nourishing women's tonic and hormone balancing herb. It contains beneficial types of isoflavonoids that downregulate the binding endogenous estrogens in its receptors. Has a modulating effect on estrogen dominance. It helps with PMS relieving, as well as things like breast swelling, tenderness, and fibrocystic breast conditions. This is one herb that you don't need to get a tincture. In fact, it's better. All of those isoflavonoids get extracted in the water and not in alcohol. So feel free to make teas. In fact, red clover, and it's a daily drink, almost a daily herbal drink in my house. I typically buy a whole bag, a pound of that, and go through that over 2-3 months. And it tastes really wonderful. It doesn't have any awful taste. And so you can make this into your daily tea. Maybe one more herb here. I just want to mention, remember how I talked about the borage, the GLA, evening primrose oil. So borage here, so just a bit of a repetition, contains GLA, beneficial unsaturated omega-6 with significant anti-inflammatory activity, contains 3 times more gamma-linolenic acid than evening primrose oil, and that's the reason why we use that in our supplements versus evening primrose oil. It supports the production of anti-inflammatory prostaglandins and leucotrienes, which reduces breast tenderness and swelling, as well as decreases smooth muscle cramping. So not only would it help your breast, but also cramping if you're having that with PMS. So as you can see, there's a lot of things you can do with herbs.
One thing, with borage oil, I think that's so important, is that that you want fresh, clean borage oil that's not going to turn. Anything with oils that can turn rancid, you have to be very, very careful of.
Absolutely. So make sure that when you're buying that, you're looking at the expiry date. So that's really key.
Mm-hmm. This is so cool how you really research this and put these herbs together, and it's a powerful combination.
It really is. So a couple of compounds, 3, but actually there's 4, I think, at the end of the that I identified. So a few things you can really bring into your life as well to support breast health that works magic is magnesium. So let's not forget about that. A little pointer here: if you're craving chocolate, most likely you might be very low in magnesium. So cacao is high in magnesium. Your body craving things is actually your body telling you that they need something, that something is low or too high in the body. And so, that's like one way, an easy way of knowing that you might want to up your magnesium levels. It's a wonderful cofactor for the COM gene. So remember, we talked about COM gene being upregulated, and magnesium is a cofactor for the COM gene to work correctly. So between 300 to 1800 milligrams is a good dose. DIM clears dirty estrogens and upregulates phase 1 detoxification. The reason, one thing just to be mindful here, because a lot of people, and it's not our fault, I think it's just the industry has been marketing DIM as the estrogen buster, making it sound like take DIM and all your estrogen dominant symptoms are going to go away. And the truth then, is that a lot of women take it and then feel worse, or they take it and have no results. Very few women take it and that's all they need. And the reason why that happens is because DIM upregulates your phase 1 liver detoxification and then opens up the floodgates. And then the phase 2 liver detoxification takes over. And if it's unsupported, then that's when you have negative reactions to DIM. And so this is where you want to support your phase 2 liver detoxification as well. And calcium D-glucarate is a good one. It clears dirty estrogens in the glucuronation pathway in the liver detoxification context, which is often very unsupported. One thing you need to be just careful with calcium D-glucarate is that it can also bind up, is the same pathway where a lot of prescription drugs get metabolized. And so make sure that if you're doing calcium D-glucarate, you are taking the supplement away from your prescription drugs, because otherwise they stop working. And I just want to give you like a super short story here. I have a very dear friend here in Colorado who is a mountain climber. She's such a sports person. And 2 weeks out of a month, she will have like this engorged breast. And she was the one who literally said, my breast will go from size A to size to cup C, literally in the course of 3 days. And she's done it all, right? She's done DIM, magnesium. She's seen 3 different naturopaths here in Colorado and worked with functional doctors, and just they could not figure out what to do. And I met her at a botanical camp a couple of years ago, and I said to her, have you tried calcium D-glucarate? She's like, I don't have a problem with bones. I'm like, no. The calcium is not the rock star here. It's not the show, the rock star in this combination is the glucuronic acid. And so she tried it, and I still have the text message, which with her permission, I use it sometimes for just to communicate a message. And she said, you know what, this is the first time that finally, after 20 years of having these breast issues, my breasts are normal again. And so all she needed was just to upregulate her phase 2 liver detoxification, and specifically the glucuronation pathway. So, and one other thing is sulforaphane. Also, it's the extract from broccoli sprouts. Can also help clear your dirty estrogens, upregulate your phase 2 liver detoxification. So that's another nice one in the food context. You could just add like quarter to half a cup of broccoli sprouts into your daily salads, or just put it on top of your meals. And broccoli sprouts are very high in sulforaphane as well. So yeah, so I hope this is helpful, you guys. And this is the picture of me in my kitchen with the Happy Sisters. And so the supplement with all the things that I talked about, all the herbs are all inside in just one capsule. And so you can DIY it and pick and choose a couple of different things that I talked about. If you feel so compelled, then having everything in one, right? Both the cream as well as the supplement is one, it's probably cheaper to do it too, to be honest, versus buying every supplement for every one of them. It can become pretty costly. And like I said, you get it with the brochure with the instructions on how to massage your breast, and you get this really lovely brochure here that shows you like everything that I talked about here and more of like what's inside there, what's the story. I believe that every customer, every buyer should be empowered and know what is it you're putting on your body, and just fall in love with the stuff and make it very intentional, very, very informed. So yeah, so I hope this was helpful, Dr. Anna.
Oh my gosh, it's so helpful. I want to thank you for sharing this, because I know you've been working on it for years. You started pre-pandemic, and you put a lot of time, energy, research into the ingredients, how they're prepared, how they're combined. And I think you created I know you created a great product. So I'm excited. And there are different times in our life, certainly kids with, young PMS, premenstrual syndrome, fibrocystic breast issues. And as a physician, we may say, okay, take some evening primrose oil, or let's put you on birth control pills and let's shut down. That can make it worse sometimes. And so we really always want to address the underlying issue. We have to clean up the diet, improve movement, lymphatic flow, and breast massage. All of that's a key part of it, avoiding the inflammatory factors. And then supplement where needed. And I like that this is a natural, clean option that hasn't existed, Magdalena. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for sharing all your information. I'm like, I'll just sit back and let you share, because it's so powerful, and you've done all the research, and I've loved the product. So I'm happy to share it with my audience, and happy to share it with my fellow physicians and my other health practitioners and coaches, and to really get this word out as a natural option. We don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer. I remember the only thing, my mom never talked about menopause, but I remember at some point I was 10 and she must have been in her late 40s, early 50s, and I would go to hug her and she's like, I can't, don't, it hurts, baby, it hurts.
Yeah.
And so like that, should never have to pull back from a hug, a wanted hug. You should never have to pull back from a hug from someone you love.
So just want to tell you also and so many women have told us that it's like, this is the time when they just do not want to be intimate whatsoever, right? It's like, just don't, it's like off touch zone to anyone. I just want you mentioned practitioners. There is a QR code at the back there. If you scan it, we'll give you, this is for practitioners. There's a whole research piece and it's like the biochemistry behind every one of the ingredients, and then the research behind to substantiate it. The only thing that lacks research, I'll be honest, is the poke. But again, it's like, how it was like 20 years ago, you talk to someone about like meditation and yoga, and they go like, No, there was the research behind it, right? Like now we believe it because there's research behind it. It's like, guess what? They knew this 2,000 years ago. So I think we need to respect the traditions of things like poke as well, and realize that if wise women and midwives and herbalists have been using it for centuries, like there's something to it. So
There's something too. I like that you combined it and you tried it yourself before you're trying it yourself. So before you put it in the combination, ah, look who's there. You've got your puppy in your lap. He's so
well,
cute.
they are like, hey mom, I think it's our walkie time. Our
Must
walkie time. Yes, they know
it
it.
it must be. So Magdalena, if people go to dranna.com/happy sisters, they'll learn information about this product and some more of the research behind the ingredients. And also they'll go to your website where they can find more information about you, what you do, your books, your programs, your other products. I mean, it's
Yeah.
outstanding. So I encourage everyone to definitely do that. And let me know how you like it. Share this episode because every woman has breast and we've all had some breast issues at some time or other. There's no need to suffer. So, and a huge education on herbal plant medicines. So, I mean, I learned things I didn't know. So, this is great information. Thank you again, Magdalena, for sharing, and thank all of you for listening. Please check out this information on healthy breast at dranna.com/happy sisters. Till next time, everyone. God bless you.